Good morning, Ultimate Hustlers. It is that time for the Cortez Hustle Show. And today, got a special guest that's going to come on and talk all about taxes and real estate. We're talking Olamide Ewetusa. She is the founder of Pachira Financials. And not only is she helping people with the taxes as a CPA service, but she's also built $1 million real estate portfolio in less than 2 years, ladies and gentlemen. So it's going down today. Make sure you comment in the chat where you're from. Drop the name of your business down or your brand and smash that share button, ladies and gentlemen. This is one you do not want to miss. So let's kick it. Yo, what's up, Ultimate Hustlers, and welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show, the business podcast for the entrepreneur of the 21st century. And I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. Our goal is to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how the world's greatest hustlers build amazing brands, scale their businesses to incredible heights, sell more, make more, and create mass movements that impact the world. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or you're sitting on the sidelines with aspirations to one day unleash your inner hustle. This show will provide the insights into how pure grit, determination, and hard work has morphed into some of the most iconic brands and personalities and how they are moving the culture forward. You'll get a mix of solo shows featuring yours truly, as well as interviews and content from other hustlers that I either know personally or I've learned from or whose grind I've come to know and respect. And you'll also get exclusive recordings from our membership called Monetize My Life Academy, which you can check out at monetizemylifeacademy.com. That's a program where we go live every month with some of the best hustlers on the planet, sharing best practices on how we all can explode our brands with advanced branding and marketing tactics, business development strategies, and financial game planning necessary to build the empires we all desire. Again, that's at monetizemylifeacademy.com. If you like today's episode, chances are the hustlers you're connected to will like it as well. Share it with those in your network. And when you do, use hashtag Cortez Hustle so I can see you and hopefully give you a shout out and share you in my stories. So check out today's episode and make sure you subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcasting networks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show. I am, of course, your host, Cortez Hustle, also known as the one and only financial health mentor, everybody's favorite fatherpreneur, from monetizemylifeacademy.com, ladies and gentlemen, home of the 21 days to launch. It is the latest in the suite of products from Monetize My Life, where I teach you how to take your gifts, talents, special abilities, and turn them into income. The 21 days to launch program is all about you adding authority to your business or your brand and becoming a published author. And believe it or not, I can help you do that in roughly 21 days. So all you got to do is comment keyword publish or go to workwithcortez.com/publish to get all of the details. Today, I am super excited. I've got a chance to meet a young lady who is doing some amazing things in the financial space. You guys know that I believe that building wealth is a team sport, and this is someone you want to have on your team, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into that, I've got a couple quick announcements. But we're talking taxes and real estate today. Comment in the chat where you're from. Let me know the name of your business under your brand, and comment your tax or real estate questions for our special guest today. So, announcement before I introduce my guest, ladies and gentlemen, the Instant Authority Blueprint is where we teach you how to build your authority by becoming a published author. I am beta testing the 21 Days to Launch program. And believe it or not, I've got a very, very, very special offer for you. So if you are a coach, consultant, speaker, trainer, online influencer, and you're trying to figure out how to attract more customers and clients to your brand, you're trying to figure out how to increase your level of impact so you can increase your level of income, then you want to go to workwithcortez.com/publish and book a call with me today. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, chances are you have something special to offer the world. It's just that not enough people know about it. becoming a published author is one of the things that you can do in a relatively short amount of time that could boost your impact and your income like nothing else out there. And I want to help you do it. So I'm looking for 9 more people to join the beta test group and run through this program with me, help me get the bugs out. And if you are one of those who want to see if you qualify for the beta test group, I'm going to offer you a very, very, very deep discount on the price. So go to workwithcortez.com/publish to get the details, and you can click the button to book your call right there. So now it is that time, lady. Taxes and real estate, 2 of my favorite subjects in the financial space. Y'all know that if you're giving Uncle Sam all of your money, then you ain't got no money to build wealth for yourself. And one of the most time and true tested ways to build wealth is through real estate. So we got somebody who's going to come on and talk about both of those subjects in great detail. So without further ado, let me introduce to you guys Olamide, which she said is cool to just call her Day, right? Ewetusa, founder of Pachira Financial Services. So, Day, my friend, how are you this morning?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing extremely well. Super excited to have you on the program this morning because you accomplished some amazing things in a short span of time, in calendar time. But we know that it takes a lifetime to build and develop the mindset and the skill set to execute some of the things that you've done so far. So before we get into all of that, I like to do a segment called Quote of the Day. This is where I start the show with a quote that hit me this morning. Every morning as I work out, I do some sort of motivational clip on YouTube or something that I'm listening to, and something hits me every morning. So I like to share what hits me. And then if you got a favorite quote, then you can share one of your favorite quotes, or you can chime in on this one. This quote came from Will Smith. It doesn't matter whose fault it is when it's your responsibility to fix it. It doesn't matter whose fault it is when it is your responsibility to fix it. Sometimes, Dave, we love pointing fingers. Don't matter whose fault it is, man. Just get on with the business of fixing it so you can move on in your life. Do you have a favorite quote, or do you want to chime in on that one?
Actually really like that one. Because I find that I see a lot of people in Black and Brown communities, and just in general low income communities often feel like they can't move forward in their lives because of systematic issues, systematic oppression, personal issues, family issues. But I always try to tell people, like, regardless of those things, still move forward and still try to find a way to kind of fix your situation, because no one's really going to do it for you. So I actually really like that quote.
Yeah, man. It's you are so right. And this whole show is dedicated to solutions, right? There's enough people screaming about the problems, man. Can we get to some solutions for once? And let's figure some things out. What we gonna do about the problem? We can pontificate all we want about the problem. That at some point, somebody's got to take some actions. So Jonathan Parks in the building. Welcome. He said, I'm Atlanta Construction LLC. I'm looking for a good tax preparer for 2 businesses my wife and I have. So there you go. Dave, we got somebody looking for your services right now. So that was the quote of the day right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by Pachira Financial Services. All you got to do is go to pachirafinancials.com to get more details on that. So I asked all of my guests, Pachira, Dave, when they come on the show, tell everybody who the heck are you?
Yeah. So my name is Olamide Ewetusa. Everyone calls me Day, and I'm a licensed CPA located in Washington, D.C. I am a Howard University graduate. Super proud of that.
Okay.
I started out my career in auditing. I was actually an auditor for Fortune 500 companies, where I then transitioned to consultant, and then I transitioned to nonprofit, and I started Pachira Financials last year, and I officially started accepting clients this year. And it's been amazing, the amount of people I've been able to help and the amount of people I've been able to meet. I just found that financial literacy is so lacking in certain communities, and I'm really glad that I'm able to provide that to people. So we offer bookkeeping, taxes, financial advisory services, and we also have some financial literacy digital products on our website. And interesting fact about me, last but certainly not least, is I am a real estate investor.
Yeah, I love it. We're going to get all the way into that. But you, like me, understand that, financial literacy is, I had Dr. George Fraser on the show a couple months back, and we talked about financial or economic empowerment as the final frontier for Black and brown people in this country. It's like we have literally not only mastered, but dominated everything we've put our minds to. What's taking us so long to put our mind to money, to put our mind to economic empowerment? What do you think the biggest issue is as it relates to us becoming more financially literate?
I think that the biggest issue I see is that talking about money tends to be taboo, right? Like people don't really talk about it. You don't talk about how much you make. You don't talk about, it tends just culturally, it's more acceptable to not talk about the money of things, And I feel like financial literacy also isn't really even taught in schools, something that I really want to hopefully change. Financial literacy isn't taught in schools. It's not even really taught in college. So there's definitely a hole there within our educational system when it comes to financial literacy, because the only people that you can learn that stuff from are your parents, your guardians, or those before you. And if there's not financial literacy there, it's just really hard to get that knowledge. So I think that the first step is really just having our community be more open and being more comfortable just talking about money.
Yeah. Yeah. And people say that to me all the time. Cortez, all you do is talk about money. You cotton picking right, because we don't talk about it enough. But I also think that is part of the systematic design, because if you the systemic design, listen, if nobody's talking about it and everybody is trying to build wealth or create financial stability in a vacuum in their own silo, then we often start to think that it's me. Like if I'm not doing what I'm doing financially, it's a me problem. So I got to go back to school and get another degree. I've got to work harder. I've got to move to a different company. It must be me. But if we all start talking about it and we all start realizing that we all have the same problems, we stop looking at me and start looking at the system, because it's not a me problem, guys. Poverty is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So there's a reason that they don't teach this stuff in school. So really quickly, I'm glad that you brought up your HBCU. I actually attended the HBCU for a little bit. Like I tell everybody, I dropped out after 2 semesters. I officially checked out though after 2 weeks. That was done. My brain was fried from high school. But talk about that experience, right? Because a lot of times when we're making the decision for school for our kids, there's a perception, like with all things Black owned, Black operated, that the quality isn't there. Could you help dispel that myth that, man, you can get an education on an HBCU campus and some of the other intangibles beyond just a quality education?
Yeah, absolutely. So Howard University, for those who do not know, is the top HBCU in the country. But
is that the real HU? Is that what you're saying?
That is definitely the real HU. I'm biased. So Howard definitely changed my life. I actually grew up I went to high school in a predominantly white area, and I knew that I didn't want to go to the typical colleges that most of my peers were going to, like JMU, UVA, Virginia Tech, things like that. And the culture, being comfortable with myself. I mean, after I left Howard, I was so different. I went natural. I stopped putting relaxers and chemicals in my hair. I started being more comfortable with myself, with my skin tone, with my color. It was just a phenomenal experience being around like-minded Black people.
Yeah.
The people that I met at Howard, outside of just the education I received, but the networking has been absolutely phenomenal. A lot of my peers that I graduated with, I mean, there's that misconception that, oh, HBCUs this, HBCUs that, but a lot of the people that I graduated with, they're pretty successful, like my real estate agent is a Howard alumni. I knew people that went off to work for JP Morgan. I went to work for a top public accounting firm, one of the biggest in the world. I know quite a few from Howard who did a lot lot of people in the business school, even a lot of people in other schools, like School of Communications, very, very successful. I see Howard graduates all the time that I graduated with or that recently graduated doing really, really good things. So
yeah,
definitely, I think that HBCUs should not be overlooked. There's definitely a lot of quality there, but there is also some of those systematic things, like funding, like how much funding have HBCUs historically received compared to PWIs. I
yeah.
actually went to Wake Forest University for grad school, and I did see a drastic difference between the resources at Wake Forest and the resources at Howard. Mind you, when I went to Wake Forest, they had just built a brand new business school, $50 million business school, just like that. No loan, no nothing. They had a benefactor, a previous student, just donate 50 million so they could just build this big,
Yeah,
big
yeah,
business school. It was great. But what I realized when I was sitting in the classrooms with the rest of the peers was that I did get a quality education from Howard because I was keeping up with everybody else. It was even better. So,
I know my ish. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, indeed.
I thought that too. I guess I did learn something at Howard. So I'm doing pretty damn good here.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, it's that white ice is colder syndrome, man, when it comes to these institutions. And the other thing I'll say on that is, man, we got to do a better job as parents, really breaking that stigma, because money follows talent, right? The reason that Wake Forest has the income that it has is because a lot of our talent is there, and they're leveraging our talent on the sports teams and the different areas. And if we, and Dr. Claude Anderson speaks on this a lot, Dr. George Fraser speaks on this a lot, if we literally funneled all of our top athletes to HBCUs for just 10 years, it will radically change, because the money is going to follow that talent. And that's when you get a football team that could fill a stadium of 80,000 people 10 times a year. Come on, man. How do you not have enough money to do everything else you need on campus, right?
Yeah. And what I really like is now that athletes can profit off of their likeness. I'm hoping, like you said, that that'll change things a little bit. And maybe they'll have more flexibility and more options in terms of where they do decide to go to school. Because I agree 100%. A lot of our really good athletes, they usually don't go to HBCUs, things like that. Even graduates of HBCUs sometimes don't give back as much as they should. And I think that's also really important to know.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's huge. But when we get to that placement, I think that's going to be very, very transformative. We've seen some of the top pro athletes who have kids who are going to HBCU schools, which is huge because it's bringing a lot of attention. But we got to get that top tier talent to commit. Like if we had like the Fab Five of basketball talent go to one HBCU all at the same time, like they did in Michigan. Imagine if the Fab Five was at an HBCU instead of Michigan, and the way they changed the culture of basketball. If they did that at an HBCU, the game would be forever changed. No doubt about it. So real quick, now is the time in our show, Day, where we do something called 1 minute motivation. I play a short motivational clip, usually 60 to 90 seconds. And then you give a couple takeaways. I'll give a couple takeaways. And then the audience usually comments a couple takeaways as well. So you guys know that I'm a huge fan of personal growth and self-development, but you got to know that everything that you consume contributes to your personal growth and or self-development. The question always is, which direction are you growing, right? So let's get into 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show.
Proceeds. We may not realize it, but we're always feeding ourselves. What we watch, listen to, the people we're around, the thoughts we're dwelling on, that's feeding our inner man. If you go to lunch with people that talk bad about the boss, make fun of a coworker, put down a friend, they're feeding you gossip, feeding you jealousy, feeding you disrespect. Here's the key. Whatever you feed is going to grow. You may not like what they're feeding you. You're a nice person. But if you continue to hang around them, before long, you'll be gossiping. You'll be critical. You'll be disrespectful. Why? Because you kept feeding the wrong things. If you're always feeding negative thoughts, thinking I'll never get well, I'll never meet the right person. You're feeding doubt, feeding mediocrity, feeding fear.
Hoo-wee. What say ye, Day? You're the guest today. So quick takeaway. What did you hear?
Wow. You are what you consume. That's pretty much what I heard. I think that right now, especially out in the media, social media, all of those things, we consume a lot. We consume a lot. We consume a lot of negativity, a lot of gossip, a lot of doubt. We see on social media how people have all these lavish things that really isn't reality, and we consume all of those things. So that's really what I took away from it, is that you are what you consume, and be very thoughtful about the things that you put in your mind and in your spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he said whatever you feed grows, right? A lot of us live a life in fear, and it's not because we're afraid of everything. It's because the one thing that we are afraid of, we just keep feeding it. 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 Guys, we got to figure out how to change the inputs. If you want a different output, it starts with the input, right? I tell people all the time, just like the news, if you watch your local news, 95% of the time, they show you the 5% of what's going on wrong in your community. So if you're not careful, you will think that your community is 95% bad. No, it's just 5% bad. They just highlight that 95% of the time. Most of us in our own personal lives do the same thing. 95% of what's going on in our lives is positive, but we harbor and we think on, and all we talk about is the 5% that's going wrong, and that magnifies, and what we feed grows. So that is 1 Minute Motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by Pachira Financials. All you got to do is go to pachirafinancials.com to learn how you can work with Day and her team and taxes and personal growth, finance, and all of those things that you need to get to a place of being whole with your finances. So I've got a statement for you, Day, and I want you to tell me if I'm on course, because I say this a lot. Poor and middle class people have been taught to fear the IRS and taxes.
Yes.
Rich people have learned to partner with Uncle Sam in the IRS. And wealthy people treat the IRS like it's a little friend. I'll say that this is a family show. So am I on course with that line of thinking?
Absolutely. Something that I try to tell my clients all the time, and a mistake I've seen a lot of people make that really was highlighted during the pandemic when they were giving out those stimulus checks, was that a lot of people don't file their taxes, not knowing that the IRS is the way for the government to give you money, right? And a lot of people saw this with the stimulus payments and with the COVID. It's like, that is the way the government can give people money. That is literally what they do. That's how anything they pass that they want to touch, like poor people and middle class people with extra money, they do it through the tax code. So if you're not filing your taxes, you could potentially be missing out on so many deductions and tax credits, because there are tax credits out there, especially for low-income families, that you can get money back without even owing taxes. So even if you're not required to file a tax return, you should still consider filing a tax return, because there are tax credits out there for low-income people specifically for you. Like, they literally passed those laws, like the child tax credit, they've increased it. They passed those laws for middle class and low-income people, and a lot of people don't even know about it.
Yeah.
So that's first and foremost.
Yeah, gotcha. And I really think, and I was like, man, when I started to study with my colleagues in the extra digit movement, we teach the power of a home-based business. Everybody in this country, believe it or not, is born a sole proprietor, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, but your social security number also doubles as an EIN number if you choose to do business with it. If you don't do business with it, then you can stay an employee where you're taxed the absolute most, or you can do business with it and you can start getting access to some of these other tax benefits and things of that nature. When it comes to entrepreneurship, and you made the leap to working from one of the biggest tax firms and auditing firms in the world to now doing your own thing, what was the mindset that you had at the time when you made that transition? And then B, talk a little bit about the benefits of operating your own business, no matter how big or how small. I think some people are running from entrepreneurship because they think that, oh, I got to go take out a loan for $50,000 so I can go get me a building and all of this stuff. And it's like, we really despise humble beginnings. And we see Google, and we see Amazon, and we see all of these multi-billion dollars, even trillion-dollar brands that were started at somebody's home or garage, right? So what was your mindset when you decided to make the leap to do your own thing? And what are some of the benefits of operating as an entrepreneur, even just to start out at a small level?
Yeah, so I think you said it really good. A lot of people underestimate, humble beginnings, right? So when I was working in corporate America, I knew I wanted to like do my own thing. I knew I wanted to start my own business. I've always been an entrepreneur, but I just never thought that I'd be able to start my own like accounting firm. Like it just seemed too out there, too big, too lavish. Like, oh, it's little old me, I can't do that. Definitely never thought that Pachira Financials would be what it is. I feel like what I started to realize when I got on social media was that there were a lot of people out there giving financial advice who weren't really even credentialed. And then there was a lot of people out there who needed financial advice who didn't know where to go to get it. Yeah. And especially people in Black and brown communities, especially people in low income communities. So ironically, Pachira Financials, when I first kind of started it back in 2020, I kind of just had a mindset that maybe it would just be a financial literacy blog. Yeah. But I just didn't anticipate how much demand was out there for financial services that's, one, affordable, because most CPAs, probably charge like $500 an hour. You can't just go into a large CPA firm and ask for services if you're not worth a certain amount of money, this, that, and the third. So I just felt like there was definitely high demand for it. And it kind of just grew from there, from my love for finances, all things finance and entrepreneurship. And then also my love for my community. And after I purchased my first home, I just saw like financial literacy is lacking within our communities. So that was really my biggest motivator for starting Pachira Financials. In terms of the benefits of being a business owner, I actually just had a post about this on social media not too long ago. The U.S. is a capitalist society. We all know that, right? Capitalism is the core to this country. It is literally written in the U.S. tax code. So the government, like, literally has a lot of benefits for business owners. The government tries to promote business ownership by providing incentives for business owners and big companies. That's why you see and you wonder, like, wow, why are all these companies not paying taxes? Why are all these companies doing this and doing that? It's because the government will incentivize you to invest in assets, will incentivize you to grow and build your business, to create jobs. So there are a lot of benefits to being a business owner. For example, a benefit I can think off the bat is the home office deduction. Now, employees, even if you're working from home, your desk, your everything, your utilities, your phone bill, none of that is deductible if you are an employee. None of it is deductible. But if you are a business owner, all of that can now be deducted. You can now deduct home office expenses, parts of your rent that's allocated towards your home office, Wi-Fi, phone bill, utilities, like your laptop. If you had to buy an iPad, you had to buy a second monitor, a printer, all of those things could be deductible. A lot of people run away from, like you said, like business ownership, run away from the IRS. And there are things within there that can really, really help you. And I think that was highlighted for a lot of people during the pandemic, because a lot of people are like, oh, wait, there's money out there. Yes, there's money out there. And they're always trying to give it away. You just have to be able to find it. And you have to be able to have that drive to really start something. And like you said, businesses it doesn't have to be this big business with a big team or anything like that. It can literally just be something as simple as you selling baked goods at your church on Sundays, something as simple as you doing something on, social media, doing coaching services once a week, or offering a one-time class or virtual meditation classes, or whatever it is that you feel like you can add value to someone else's life. Monetize that. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. One other big one I like to get you to chime in on is, I didn't know this stuff, Day, and I have 5 sons. And I also raised a nephew and a cousin. So 7 boys in this house. God bless my wife. 7 boys in the house at all times, right? Or at most times. But the other one is, now that the standard deduction is $12,000 plus, putting your children to work for you in your business. Can you talk about the money that people with kids are leaving on the table and tie it into this? Because a lot of times in our community, we think we're getting over when we have a side hustle and we're getting paid cash under the table. And I'm like, no, legitimize that thing. Yeah, you have to report that money, but you're going to get all of these other tax benefits that talk about the hiring your child. And can we get our people to legitimize their businesses and stop thinking they're getting over? Because what's happening is you're losing tens of thousands of dollars by collecting your $1,500 under the table for doing hair in your kitchen.
Exactly. So yes, hiring your kids is huge. Not only does it offer really nice life lessons to your kid, but the IRS actually has tax benefits for hiring your children. So usually if you hire someone, you have to pay payroll taxes, they have to pay payroll taxes and all of that. If you hire your kids, you do not have to pay payroll taxes on the money that you pay to your children as long as they are under 17. And you do not have, and your children don't have to pay payroll taxes on that money. So meaning they don't have to pay FICA, they don't have to pay Social Security, all of that stuff. If your child makes less than $12,000 a year, they're not due any taxes at all, because the standard deduction is not, I think it's like maybe for 2022 or 2021, 12,400 or whatever. If you make less than 12,400, you don't have to pay taxes on that money. So the IRS basically says that you get a standard deduction. Everybody gets a standard deduction of 12,400, 24,000 and some change if you're married. So that's a big deduction. So your kids, so if you have 5 kids and you're paying each of them $12,000 every year, that's a $60,000 deduction right there that you can work right off on your books. And then on top of that, you can also start opening up some retirement accounts for your kids, like a Roth IRA. Put some of that money in there, let it start growing. You know, that is earned income that they're having, and it's really good for them to have that. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of caveats and a lot of things that you can do to take advantage of that, and utilizing your kids is one of them. They work for you anyway when they do their toys and you tell them to go do this and go do that. You might as well get something out of it and get a nice little tax deduction out of it, or pay them or teach them about financial literacy and about working in business and things like that. Always recommend teaching your kids and bringing them on to whatever it is that you're doing so they know early on. Now, the whole comment about legitimizing your business is so important. Let me tell you, when I started renting out parts of my home, I didn't want to report the money to the IRS. I'm just like telling my friend, like, hey, just cash at me, your rent, and we'll be good. And then I realized once I filed my taxes, there were so many deductions where reporting that money, I actually was saving money on my taxes to the point where it brought my income just low enough where I was eligible for those stimulus payments. And I was like, oh my goodness. So there are so many things and caveats there. Legitimizing your business is the biggest thing, right? Because if you don't legitimize your business, banks, lenders, no one is you have no proof that your business is successful. I see it all the time with business owners who probably I make $80,000 a year, I make $100,000 a year, but your tax return says that you make 20. So now when you're trying to legitimize your business, as in growing your business, hiring people, moving into a space and really becoming that entrepreneur that you want to be, you're reaching roadblocks because you haven't been legitimizing your income and legitimizing your business. Now, there are ways to legitimize your income and legitimize your business without paying a lot in taxes. And I see this question all the time where people ask, like CPAs and things like that, like, oh, how can I keep my taxable income low? But, when I try to apply for loans and stuff like that, they'll look at my tax return and it's too low. There are ways to do that. There are ways to your taxable income low, but your net income high. This is why it's really important to talk to a CPA. Sometimes people don't want to really invest the money in experts, but it can really save you a ton of money and a ton of time on the back end. Because what I tell my clients is, depending on who you are, there's so many things that your business can make a ton of money, but you can still have personal deductions like 401k deductions. A lot of people don't know, if you are self-employed, you can contribute up to, I think it's like $53,000 to your 401k tax-free. There's so many things like that a lot of people just aren't aware of. So things like depreciation, you can have a different depreciation calculation for taxes and for your books. And sometimes banks will look at your net income before taxes and depreciation, because depreciation is pretty much just when you buy an asset, expensing the cost of that asset over time. So according to the IRS, for example, there's something called bonus depreciation. So if you buy a vehicle that's over 6,000 pounds, like say, for example, you buy a van, you sell food, you sell baked goods, and you deliver the food, you do catering, and you use this van to do so, that van is 100% depreciable in the year that it was purchased. So if you bought that van for $20,000, you can 100% deduct that van on your taxes. But on your books, you can depreciate that van over, let's say, a 5 or 7 year useful life. Meaning, instead of deducting the full $20,000, you split that $20,000 in 5 and 7 years, and you deduct it slowly, which will give you a higher net income because you're not deducting all of that expense at once. There's so many things like that that you can do. And as an auditor, we used to really go in and look at these companies and try to make sure they didn't do things like that. There's so many things where you can be creative to, inflate your income and non-inflate your income, so many different things like that you can do, that if you talk to an expert, they can really guide you and help you plan accordingly so that you can still have a nice net income, but you can still keep your taxable income low.
Love it, love it, love it. Man, listen, people, I'm trying to tell you, this is why I keep screaming to y'all that building wealth is a team sport. Now that you know it's a team sport, you got to ask yourself this question: who's in your starting lineup? It sounds like you need Day and Pachira Financials in your starting lineup, ladies and gentlemen, if building generational wealth is the goal. Now, if just getting by is the goal and scraping and clawing and all of that, if that's the goal, then keep doing what you're doing. But if generational wealth, especially for those of us, Pachira, who have, like the young kids say, we got to get it out the mud, right? It's like, I don't have an inheritance coming, and this is no shade to my mom, right? She didn't know, so she didn't put anything away. So I don't have an inheritance coming. I tell everybody this, and we're going to get into real estate in a second, because you mentioned something that I want to start with, right? But I tell everybody this: me being born broke is not my fault. Me dying broke is. And then I go a step further. Watch this. If my grandchildren are born broke, that too is my fault, because I should have something living on this planet now, 47 years. I should have something in place to ensure that my grandchildren aren't born broke. And one of those things could be real estate. So let's get into this conversation. Let's start here, because I'm new to this space in terms of real estate and looking at it. There was a time where my wife and I flipped a few properties and things of that nature. We were not savvy with our money, so that didn't last long, right? But you said something in a term that is really hot right now. You said you allow friends to rent space in your home, and they call it house hacking. Let's talk about, explain what house hacking is and how that can be leveraged as a way to create some extra income.
Absolutely. So basically, house hacking is when you purchase a property. It can be a multi-unit. It can actually even be a single family where you rent out rooms in the property or another unit to other people to pretty much get your mortgage paid for. So living in a high cost of living, city, I was paying a ton of money for a 500 square foot studio, not even in DC, outside, like 30, 40 minutes outside the city. And it was just absolutely ridiculous to me. When I did the calculations, I'm like, I'm spending about $14,000, $15,000 a year in rent. And that's just money down the drain. That's a large chunk of my income. When you think about your biggest expense is most likely your housing costs, followed by transportation. So for me, it made more sense for me to just go ahead and purchase a property, and that money that I was putting towards rent, I could be putting towards a mortgage and actually putting towards paying off an asset. On top of that, when I was able to rent out, so I got a townhouse, and I was very strategic about the fact that I wanted to have at least 2 to 3 bedrooms, and I wanted to at least have a basement. So I could always rent out the basement. I could always rent out a room upstairs. I was really lucky because when I purchased the home, a friend of mine had already agreed to move in before I even closed on the home. Wow. So having her was extremely helpful because she helped me pay most of the, well, not most, but a good chunk of the mortgage when I first got the house. And for those who are homeowners or interested in real estate, when you first buy a house, there are going to be some expenses that you may not anticipate that is going to be different from when you were renting. So for example, lawn care, for example, security costs, trying to get cameras, and I live in Southeast, things like that. So it was really helpful having her. And then eventually I was able to get a tenant in my basement, and that was where things really took off, because after both of my tenants paid their rent, my mortgage, I think I only had to come out of pocket about $300 towards my mortgage. So I went from paying about $1,200 to $1,300 a month in rent to only paying $300 towards my mortgage. And I was, living in the master's bedroom. I was able to, live comfortably while also securing and saving a ton of money. The money I was able to save house hacking, meaning I didn't have to pay all that money in rent anymore. I was able to then save that money to invest in my duplex, my next property. So house hacking can really, really help. Can really change a lot of things when you do that, because for me, it was mainly about how do I lower my housing costs. And I found that by purchasing a house and renting out parts of the home, I was able to live essentially for free.
I love it. I love it. And we're going to transition to how you built this portfolio in the next segment here. But I got to say this, because now that I am thinking about building generational wealth, I'm like, man, I could be house hacking with my kids.
Yes.
And again, we're going off what society says. When your kids are 18, kick them out. They got to leave. They got to go and try to figure it out on their own. And now I'm like, man, I've got 5 sons, and me and my wife, we all make a certain amount of income every month. If all 7 of us pool that income, we could have a nice spread with enough room for everybody, and everybody's living expense could be a couple $100 a month. And we're paying off an asset, right? So keep in mind, guys, you can house hack with strangers, or you can house hack with your family too. Save everybody some money, get everybody on this wealth building game plan, and start moving towards ownership. So house hack where you were currently living, that allowed you to save a few dollars. And then, was it always the idea or goal for you to become a real estate investor, or did that come from the house hacking and the money you were saving? You're like, man, I got to do something with this.
Yeah. So what really made me want to be a real estate investor was just seeing how lucrative real estate was. I always wanted to own real estate. I didn't grow up, I got out the mud. I didn't grow up with nothing. I don't want people to look at this and think that my parents owned real estate or I had nope. None of that. Yeah. So I always wanted to own a home, because we never had that growing up. Moved around a lot. I never had a place to call home. Don't have a childhood home, all of that. So for me, I just wanted a home. I just wanted a place where I could be like, this is my home. This is where I'm going to come back to. I have a home. But when I saw how lucrative real estate was, when I saw how much my property skyrocketed, when I house hacked, when I just saw all the benefits of it, I just knew I had to buy another property. Yeah. I didn't anticipate when I wanted to buy a home. I would always say it when I was in high school, when I was in college, like, I really want to buy real estate. I really want to buy a home. I didn't anticipate that I'd have $1 million worth of real estate so soon, but dream for the stars. You never know what's going to happen. Right. Yeah, so for me, it was really once I just saw how lucrative real estate was, I just knew it was the way to go for me. I like investing in things that are real. So it's literally called real estate, because you can invest in stocks, you can invest in bonds, which is all good. But for me, if the world were to go to a mess tomorrow, at least I still got my properties, and I'll just sit in my house and sip my wine, and I'll be like, well, at least I got my house.
Gotcha. I love that. And the fact that it is lucrative is something that lots of people look at, but then talk about the process of you learning the game, because sometimes it's so lucrative that people want to jump out of here and skip steps and all that kind of stuff. But there's a process and there's a learning curve you have to take seriously, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, you hear everybody talking about flipping homes, wholesaling, this, that, and the third. I knew that if I wanted to get into real estate, the first thing I needed to do was buy my first property, buy my own house, know what it's about, right? What does it even take to have a property, to have real estate? And I always recommend that if you want to get into real estate, the first thing you should do or can do is buy a primary residence, so you can get an idea of, okay, so what does it really mean to own real estate? What is this? What do I have to do? What am I going to have to look out for? So For me, I will say the two caveats that I think really, really helped me with building my portfolio was, one, I graduated with a advanced degree with no student loans. I do not believe in student loans. I think that, like I said, society needs to stop making people think that college is the only way to be successful, or this is the only way to be successful. There are so many ways to be successful in life. So for me, I didn't have any student loans and I had an advanced degree, and so that was huge. I didn't have any debt. I'm not a debt person, so that was huge. It really helped me with qualifying for a property. Also, I purchased my property early on in my career, so I was able to be eligible for a lot of first-time home buyers and grants and things like that, which is really, really key. A lot of people think that real estate is not for them because of how expensive it may be, but you are so wrong. I purchased my first property with only $3,000. $3,000, and that property is now worth about $500,000. I actually, when I shared that, a guy messaged me on Instagram, said he did the same thing. Him and his wife purchased a property with only $2,000. They house hacked. Now they made $50,000 off of that house, and now they're buying another one. So it's really important to know those things. So one, there are a lot of first-time homebuyer programs out there for low-income people. So don't think that just because you don't have the money or whatever, or all this money, you can't buy a house. Yes, you may still be able to. Credit is a thing. Like, a lot of people think, oh, my credit's bad, I'll never be able to own property. Your credit can always be fixed. It can always be fixed. I know people have literally come from bankruptcy to multiple properties, and your credit can always be fixed. Things like that can always be fixed. If you do want to get into real estate, and so the main things that helped me was first-time homebuyer programs. That was huge. I was able to qualify for those. DC has a lot, so I think I got maybe $7,000 from the District of Columbia. I got a $5,000 grant from somewhere else, and then I also negotiated that seller pay closing costs. Within this current market, that might be hard, but I see a lot of people say that, like, oh, well, not in this market. I bought a duplex in April and seller paid $5,000 in seller credit. So it is possible as well. Be strategic about the location that you purchase your house in. Don't buy a house that doesn't make sense for that location. If the homes in that location are $300,000, don't buy a $500,000 house in that location. Being strategic about where you buy the property. I did do some renovations to the property, but the seller paid for it. I think I just got lucky with that deal. The negotiations were on point. I stuck to my guns. I'm always willing to walk away from a real estate deal. Real estate is a really big purchase. It's a big investment. So you always got to be willing to walk away. So once I did the little bit of renovations, I saw that there was quality in this home. The lady used to live here. She lived here for 60 years. There was green carpet. The home was solid. It just little things like maybe needed new flooring, new paint, things like that. Once all those things were fixed up, I mean, it looked like a brand new home. So definitely try to invest in a place that has strong bones, where the kitchen and the bathrooms were good. So all I had to do was just do some slight changes here or there. And my next door neighbor, when I purchased the house 2 years ago, I purchased the house for $335,000. They had purchased their house for $370,000 in 2016. So I was like, okay, I feel really comfortable with the price of this house because I'm buying this house for $335,000. It's bigger than the next door neighbors, and they bought theirs 5 years ago for $370,000. So okay, this is already a pretty good deal. In April of this year, those same neighbors sold their house for about $470,000. So my house is even bigger than theirs because I had a kitchen addition that was already built into the home. So estimated value for my house is anywhere between $490,000 and $520,000. So for me, I just felt like that was an amazing, amazing deal. And I knew I had to get in on another property. DC is a really high cost of living city. So the next duplex I bought, $500,000. I was able to leverage the fact that I had tenants. Because if you have a mortgage, right, here's the thing, here's the kicker when you become a real estate investor, is being strategic about how you go about financing, because that's the biggest thing. If the banks aren't going to give you the money, it's over with. So with me, I already had a mortgage. So that's really difficult for a bank to give you another mortgage when you already have a mortgage and a home. But because I had tenants, I was able to include their rental income as income, which offset the mortgage payments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just a tip for those.
And you legitimize that rental business, right?
Just about
it wasn't hey, cash at me, pay me under the table. No, let's get you on a lease agreement. Let's say what you're paying every month. Let's get a deposit in here. So now it can be reported as income. I love it.
I had a separate business account. Where I have a separate business account where I take rental payments. I am a bookkeeper, so I take care of my books. On my taxes, though, I made negative $8,000 from my rental business. Negative $8,000 on my taxes from my rental business.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, because you got to explain that, because in the business that I am in, we talk about this a lot. And because I tell people to start with humble beginnings in home-based business, you get all these tax benefits. The first thing they'll tell me, Day, is you can't write all of that off if you don't make no money, if you don't make a profit. I'm like, there's a line on the 1040 that says, please report your profit or your loss. So you made a negative 8,000 on that. Flesh that out as you continue with this story, please.
Yeah, because everything is deductible, because my tenants were living in my house. So 2/3 of all of my utilities is a deduction. Anything that's personal, obviously I couldn't deduct all of my utilities, but 2/3, whatever my tenants use, that's deductible. Anything from Home Depot, anything I bought from Home Depot is deductible. I got a Home Depot account. I looked through my Home Depot. Anything I bought from Home Depot is deductible. The lawn care is deductible. When I bought a new TV, that's deductible because I bought that TV for my tenants for the common area. All of that is deductible. I renovated. I was struggling to find a tenant for the basement because the basement just wasn't up to par. So I couldn't find a quality tenant. I ended up getting a small personal loan of $4,000 so I could renovate that basement. I got some guys on Craigslist. I was literally doing the mud work myself at one point, painted it myself. I was like, I have to get a tenant in here. Once I got the tenant in there, they were paying about $1,000 a month. So I was able to pay off that loan within 3 to 4 months. And then I was starting to be profitable and stuff like that. So all of those renovations, deductible. All of that, deductible. So at the end of it all, and another thing is depreciation. If you are a renter, you can deduct depreciation in your property. And that's the biggest deduction pretty much. Because if your property is worth, let's just say $200,000, you can't depreciate land. But if your property is worth $200,000, just the actual physical property itself, you can deduct, you divide 200,000 by 27.5 years, and you can deduct that expense every year. That's your house depreciating, and you can deduct that on your taxes. That depreciation is not being deducted on my books. That is only being deducted on my tax return. So what I did was, and so my rental income gets reported on my Schedule E. So it's definitely different if you have business income that's being reported on your Schedule C. However, you can still get around it. You just got to talk to an expert. So what I did was, I had a loss on my Schedule E, but when I told the bank about any additional income I had, I included gross rent. I didn't put the net loss that was reported on my tax income. I put gross rent. And then when they asked for my tax return, they saw on my Schedule E my gross rent amount, regardless of whatever the net loss was. In addition to that, I provided them my lease agreements from my tenants. In addition to that, I provided them the bank statements from my business income. So all of that together, they were fine with it. And they just said, okay, fine. She makes us extra money. You got to be strategic, because sometimes lenders don't be knowing what they be doing either. I've had to correct lenders a couple times, but that was pretty much how I was strategic enough where I told them, I said, this is my additional gross rental income. I put gross rent, meaning revenue, and I didn't put net, like losses after depreciation, all that stuff. I just told them, this is the additional income I make, period. And if you need proof, you can see it on my tax return. It was reported as the gross income I made. And if you need further proof, you can see it on the lease statement. And if you need further proof, you can see it on the bank statement that I do get paid rental income every month.
Love it. And because you because you house hacked, it made it easier for you to buy your second piece, right? Exactly. Because now those two mortgages, the first mortgage almost looks non-existent. Exactly. Because the outgo for you is pretty much $300. So they're saying, okay, you can take on another $1,500 mortgage on the second because your first is so low and you got documented proof. Before we go, Dave, we gotta let you jump into a segment that we call freestyle, because I know you got bars, sis. You up in DC, Chocolate City, you got to have bars, right? Well, we're not gonna drop a beat or anything like that. And I'm not going to ask you to rhyme these words in the rhythm. But bars is all about you. Just anything that we didn't cover as I build this media empire that will one day surpass Disney and Ted Turner. As I'm building it, I don't always ask the right questions. And the conversation sometimes never evolves to where we want it to go. So take 90 seconds and freestyle anything that you, A, want us to know, or B, anything that you feel needs to be reiterated from earlier in the conversation. So this is freestyle right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, the Ewetusa version. Hit it.
Okay, so one thing I do want to note, and like I like to always say whenever I'm talking to people, meeting people, whatever, is that I did not have much growing up. You know, me and my family, we lived in a basement apartment for most of my teenage years. I lived in a small 10-by-6 windowless room, you know, that the light went out at one point. I would sit there in the dark most of the time, and it just wasn't ideal. And I didn't come from a family that owned real estate. I don't have an inheritance. You know, going through college, going through that whole process, I pretty much went through the application process, went through everything by myself, applying to scholarships by myself, went through the whole real estate process by myself. So I don't want people to hear my story and think that it's not feasible for them, or that, oh, she probably had, she probably had help, or she probably had this, or she probably had that. I really didn't. And there are a lot of people out there. I think the statistic is like 60% of millionaires are self-made, you know, things, something like that. And I just really want people to know that wealth is attainable. Stop letting the system, stop letting the media, society tell you that you can't do it because of your gender, your skin tone, your sexuality. No matter what it is, wealth is attainable. And I am a testament to that, because just 3 years ago, or I guess 2 years before I purchased my first property, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I literally finished grad school with $400 in my bank account. I'm not a debt type of person. So yeah, I had a job offer, but you know, that time between graduation and my job, I'm sitting there with all my stuff in my car, begging my mom to crash at her place. You know, I really didn't have much, but at the end of the day, I was patient and I put in the work, and I was able to live below my means, and I was able to just live the lifestyle that I had until I was able to make something more of myself and of the things that I had. So be patient. Don't fall victim to seeing all the stuff you see on social media, all the stuff you see in the media, and like, oh, this person got this person got that. Don't look at me and even be like, oh, she got $1 million in real estate, I'm gonna rush and go get a real estate right now. You know, just know that wealth is attainable if you are patient and if you're willing to work hard, and if you're willing to respect your boundaries and what you're willing to do. Wealth is definitely attainable. So that's something I like to tell people. And I see someone saying here, do you need to be college educated? Honestly, college helps. It really does. I'm college educated, so I'm not going to tell nobody not to be college educated, but it's not the end of the world. I know a lot of people who don't have college degrees who have businesses right now, like who are literally making decent money right now. In fact, when I meet people, the first thing I ask, like if I'm like dating someone or something like that, I'm like, do you have student loans? Because you'll see that a lot of people will have a degree, will have a ton of student loans, and then they're working a job where you didn't even need that degree for anyway. So now you're just starting in negative when you didn't even need to do that. And I really think there are trade schools. There are so many different things out there. You know, you don't think that just because you don't have a college degree, just because you don't have this or you don't have that, you didn't grow up with it, that it's not possible for you. It is possible. And I just want to encourage everybody out there to really work hard for what you want and really believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how are you going to expect someone else to?
That's right. I love it. I love it. That's my only gripe with college is it's sold to us as if it is the only way to win. B, it's sold to us as if it's the only way to win. And they sell it to us as if it's a guaranteed way to win. And we both know neither one of those are true, because we know a lot of people with degrees that are struggling, a lot of people without degrees that are winning. So that's my only gripe with college. I do believe in higher education, higher learning. It just does not have to be, that's not the only mechanism to get educated at a higher level. So really quickly, if you go to Pachira Financials, you can get all of the details on Day and her wonderful move and everything that she's got going on. I'm certain that at some point a real estate course is coming. Maybe not there now, but I'm certain that is coming. So till we talk to you guys next time, I want you to get your money up, because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. So hustle up. But you've got to overcome fear if you're going to win.
You're tuned into the Cortez Hustle Show. Please like and subscribe.